Hello, everybody. This is Aaron Richmond, the host of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people, where we talk about issues in the blindness community. Aaron's Opinion can be found almost anywhere you get a podcast, from Apple to Spreaker to Spotify, Google, YouTube, Patreon. You know it. We're probably there. We're also available, as I said, on Patreon and on Twitter and Facebook. Today, listeners, I'm so glad to tell you that we are joined by a great friend, someone all the way from Kampala, Uganda, who has a lot of information to give us and a big life story to talk to us about. Why don't you go ahead, jump right into it, introduce yourself, and go ahead.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm called Ambrose Wadudu. I'm from Uganda. So I'm a Ugandan by nationality. And I'm not a blind person, but I'm a great advocate for people with disabilities in my country. I started this work in 2015, immediately after finishing my university degree, and there was no work. So I decided instead of sitting, I started an organization called Elgon Child Watch Initiatives Uganda. This organization, I formed it initially with the purpose of promoting child protection because there were so many violations of children's rights in my community. However, as time went on and I was blessed to have a job, I turned my works to child protection, but also supporting education. In education, we're basically supporting those children who are vulnerable, who could not buy scholastic materials, and those ones who were orphaned. Now, my turning point to start supporting disability was in 2018. I was working for an organization which promoted child rights, and they conducted an outreach. This outreach brought in so many people with disabilities, the lame, the blind, the mute, and many others. So deep inside my heart, I said that yes, I'm here for this organization, but in my own village, there are very many people who with these disabilities. Can't I help? So I went back home and interacted with my cousin brother, who is my age mate. By then, he was 24 years. So I asked him if he knew anything to do with the Braille, and yes, he did. Now, why I went in for this was because from the experience of my blind brother, who is my age mate, it seemed like there were no opportunities for the blind people in the community. For example, I started my primary level and completed it while he was sitting at home and there was no opportunity. I joined the ordinary level, which we call A level, when he was just joining primary one. So there was a difference of 7 years in education, and yet he could have achieved it all like others. So I decided to conduct an outreach in 2018, December, and out of this outreach, we were able to find 200 children with disabilities, and we started to support them. For the blind people, since I had a cousin, I explored on how we could help, and thank God, we were joined by a friend of ours from the United States who donated to us a laptop. Now, I didn't know blind people could also use laptops because I'd never seen even one person using a laptop. To my surprise, this friend of ours gave us a keyboard which is Braille in nature, and we installed a software called NVDA. When it was installed, we realized yes, even blind people can use laptops. It was very interesting, and my cousin, who is called Sam, started to do some work on the laptop, typing for people, and people were hiring him to do some small work. Then also we decided to support other people with disabilities, for example, the deaf and the mute. Now, these people also find a challenge going to school. So in our program, we decided to pioneer something by buying smartphones for blind people. There were two people in the project by then. On the phones, we installed an application called Otter. So this application is a transcoder which was helping the people who cannot hear to write, and then the words are read to those ones who can hear. And then while a person who hears and talks could talk, the application could automatically write the notes down, and this person could read and give a response. So we realized it was very important, especially in changing lives of children, and we pursued it. Uh, Currently, we are continuing with disability outreaches, and our main purpose is not to actually our main purpose is not to actually say, for example, solve the problem, but we are trying to promote accessibility for children with disabilities. We are aiming at solving the problem at childhood rather than starting to deal with the problem during adulthood. For example, for those children who have physical disabilities, we link them to hospitals which deal with disabilities for rehabilitation, so that maybe their disabilities can be cured and not affect them during childhood. And then for those who are already having disabilities, for example, the completely blind, we aim at ensuring that at least they have access to each and everything that others can access. And by so we are trying to, for example, materials like films and any other literature is being translated. Or for example, if it's a video for the deaf, they must be captioning them so that they can know exactly what is being talked about, but also using the sign language. For the blind, we also installed sign language applications which have important things like the laws of Uganda, which have things like the Bible, which they use so much, and many others. This year in 2020, we decided to open up a community library because of the COVID condition. And one of the things that we have done is to make sure that we have one laptop which is there for people who are blind, so that when they come to read anything, we have a software of whatever they want and they use it for referring. While those ones who are not blind always use the hard notes which are available and the books which are there. So in so doing, we are trying to ensure that in everything we do, they are involved, and we keep monitoring them and meeting them in their respective villages. And we are starting some projects on income generation. For example, like those ones who cannot walk, we want to train them in things like hairdressing, uh, mechanics, and many others. While the blind, we are looking at uh, training them in accessibility edits, for example, for websites. We want to train them on accessibility, for example, for editing websites and finding out if that. So we are ensuring that.
Great. I am still here. That is all wonderful. Good, good.
Sorry,
No
I was
problem. It's all right.
interrupted. I was interrupted by someone calling on my phone.
No problem. No problem. Mm-hmm.
Mm. So I was saying we have a friend from the United States who is trying to support us. She works with an organization, a non-profit called Access Promise USA. And this lady called Janet is specifically helping to equip especially the blind with the skills to work even when the conditions are not favorable. For example, one of the things we mainly wanted to do was we want to train the blind on how to use computers to do work. And here we are targeting things like website designing and website accessibility tests, whereby someone can test a website and see if it is accessible to all people in terms of color, in terms of lighting, and others. Now, one of the things we have also managed to do is that we have been training people on which language to use, especially when referring to people and children with disabilities. I think here traditionally people have different names of calling people with disabilities. For example, part of the training is instead of calling someone a lame man, it would be good to say a man with a physical impairment on the leg. Or if instead of calling someone, instead of calling a person who doesn't talk to be called dumb, it is better we call them the mute, so that it doesn't look like we are harassing them in the way we talk and we introduce them. And one of the things that we have been teaching people is, especially for the blind people, how do you guide a blind person? Do you just pull him? Do you put him in front? Or he has to be in some position? And we have been telling people clearly that yes, if you're with a blind person and you're guiding, it's better that person to hold, for example, your shoulder. And if he's going to sit, you must make sure that you get his hand and make him to touch on the place where he's sitting, so that he does not get an accident in any way. So that's what we are mainly focusing on right now. And there are so many other modifications that we keep on introducing as we keep moving. That's basically what we are doing. However, for us here, we have a slogan which says that if you're involving blind people or if you're involving another person with disabilities, we have a slogan which says, nothing for us without us, implying if we are trying to do anything for the blind community, for the deaf community, or for any other type of disability community, we must involve them. They must tell us their view and their feel of what we are planning for them. Instead of imposing just that, no, you are supposed to do this, we feel better if they are consulted and they consent on whatever we want to do for them. That's basically what I can tell you about the organization I'm leading.
And I'm extremely impressed with everything you've said. You're doing a magnificent job of explaining all of this information. Absolutely wonderful.
Mm. Mm. So most of the things we are doing, we keep updating on our Facebook page, which is called Elgon Child Watch Initiatives Uganda. And
Great. Well, I tell you what, after the show today, if you want, you can send me links to your organization, and I can put one of those links in the description of this video, and then people
yes,
can come and learn more about that. But I, of course, have questions. You said so. You said that when you were in university, you became interested in basically, as you said, child protection. I think you
yes.
said, correct? Okay. Can you walk our listeners through what that means and give me more information about that?
Thank you very much. By child protection, I mean these are mechanisms we try to put in place to respond to issues regarding child abuse. Now, here, traditionally, there are some things which bar children from pursuing their dreams. For example, there are places where all families who feel girls are not supposed to go to school. And then also the hostile cultures, for example, which involve male circumcision, it's called female genital mutilation. And also the kind of issues whereby you find a family does not just provide